Hello and welcome to the Overdrive Digital Show. I'm Sohini Dutt. This show is your weekly fix for all things automotive, the latest reviews, and also the latest comparison tests that we go through. And we get you all across our various social media platforms on Overdrive as well as on CNBC TV 18. Let's start the show with the most talked about SUV from this week. In fact, the chatter didn't start this week, it started last weekend on the Independence Day when Mahindra invited the entire media fraternity to drive the all new generation Thar from their plant in Kandi to the south of Mumbai. This particular SUV, this Offroader, has been creating ripples on social media. Now, Bert got a chance to get us a detailed review of this Offroader in the few hours that he had to get you this video. Let's take a look at it.
COVID-19 might have disrupted our lives. The pandemic had us under a lockdown, but finally we're out and we're driving the stunning all-new Thar from Mahindra. This is exactly what Mahindra should have done a long time ago, but thankfully it's here. It's a spanking, smashing looking thing, absolutely brilliant, looks fantastic. It's got all the design elements that we've seen on the Wrangler and appreciated. And well, what I appreciate the most, of course, is the fact that this will be far more affordable. Looks good. It's got that butch feeling, big large fenders, 18-inch wheels and tires, that massive bumper at the front. And even these pop-on bonnet holders. So it's a fantastic looking ensemble altogether. I'm completely floored by the way the Thar has been styled. And if you look down towards the side profile, you'll clearly notice the fender extending all the way from the bumper coming round. And this is something that's unique. The front fender has got a square profile, has got a square wheel well. But if we move towards the rear, that's rounded. Massive outside rear view mirrors. You even got space to put up an antenna on the outside. That's the badging for the M-Hawk, which indicates this M-Hawk 130. Of course, this is the diesel engine. The one that I'm driving is an automatic, and I'll come to the configuration in a bit, but let's take a look over here. Now, again, this is a fiber rooftop. This can be taken off entirely if you're going off-road and you want that wind in your hair pleasure. This entire unit comes off at the top. Move towards the back, you got a dual unit tailgate. So you open the tailgate and you can lift the windscreen, the rear windscreen as well. But not a lot of luggage space once you're in here, and that is something we're going to have to figure out how we will eventually be able to put luggage in, especially if you're outdoors, you're going on a road trip somewhere. Also keep in mind, there is a way to open this and close this. You first need to shut the windscreen and then the tailgate. The spare wheel is mounted on the rear tailgate. I also quite like these rectangular, the vertical rectangular tail lamps. LED units, they've got the Thar branding right there. Keeping in tune with the characteristics, the design of the original Thar. This is still a two-door version. So you've got just one door each on either side. And of course, there's a third door, which is the tailgate at the other end. It's a very nice dashboard, probably one of the finest interiors that I've ever seen in a Mahindra for that matter. Thing absolutely well executed. The fit and finish is brilliant. It looks good. And all of this, everything inside this is washable. That means even the seats, the floor, the entire dashboard, the steering wheel, all of these units, you can just take a hose to it and wash it all down. If you look closely at the infotainment system, now this is a 7.5-inch screen, but this is protected by waterproof material. It's encased in waterproof material, so water will not affect it. I could take a hose down right now, spray the entire front console, and nothing would happen to it. If you look closely over here in between the aircon vents as well, it's plastic. This isn't carbon fiber, but you've got carbon fiber texture. I'm quite impressed by that. The dashboard clearly has two layers to it. At the top end, you've got a grip for the passenger. This is essential and very handy when you're driving off-road and the passenger has to hold on to something. There's the badging. Very important. Says made in India. I do like the with pride bit as well. This is the automatic transmission. Right next to that is the four-wheel drive selector. So you've got, I've got it right now in two-wheel drive, but you can also select 4 high and 4 low. Now, four-wheel drive is standard with every variant that Mahindra offers on the Thar. So all of those variants, and there are several variants, those will be announced at the time of launch, have all got four-wheel drive.
How many people can the Thar accommodate? Should you opt for a soft top variant over the hard top? Is the petrol M Stallion a better choice than the diesel M Hawk? Bird has all the answers. There's one more bit of the video.
To get into the rear seat, you need to take the seat as far forward as possible and then a little bit further and then step into the rear. Now, I'm quite impressed with the amount of space. That driver's seat has been set to my position and I've got an enormous amount of room still in here. Now, the one challenge, if you look down here, is these are the wheel well areas and that's the only part that comes and intrudes into the cabin. You've also got this large wheel well section over here itself. That's on the outside, that's where the fender sits. Mahindra could have better utilized this to provide probably cup holders or a charging point additionally or something of that sort. This is a safety feature that's been added to the Mahindra Thar and this is extremely important given its focus on off-road abilities. There is a roll cage right here. If you look at the interiors carefully, there is a roll cage that goes all around this vehicle. And this gives it the kind of support if you are in terms of a crash, if the vehicle rolls over, these bars are what will keep you safe. This and the central bar going through over here. Essentially, it's going to be two body styles on this. There's going to be the one Thar with the hard top roof, another one with the soft top roof. Now the hard top, well, this doesn't come off. It cannot be taken off. But there is another soft top version. The roof comes off the soft top version, and that makes it a convertible SUV. For most purposes, the hard top roof is perfectly fine and should make ideal sense. That should be the best option to choose from. There are two engine options available, a petrol, that's the Stallion, M Stallion engine. That's going to be standard with a manual and an automatic transmission. There's also a diesel, the M Hawk diesel, and that of course will also be coming along with a manual and an automatic transmission. So that is a huge step forward because very, very few manufacturers as we know it today offer a diesel automatic, and Mahindra is the second one to announce it in the market to give a diesel automatic. Of course, in this segment where off-road vehicles are concerned, there is nobody who's offering a diesel automatic with a 4x4 drivetrain as well. On the power and torque fronts, petrols make about 150 horsepower. You've got about 320 Newton meters of torque, as well as the 2.2 litre diesel M-Hawk that makes 132 PS of max power with 300 Newton meters of torque. That's a little less than the diesel. Now you additionally also get a locking differential and a brake lock feature, which both of these are very handy in off-road conditions because they will just enhance the off-road capabilities of the Thar. So brake locking will effectively apply the brakes on individual wheels depending on what conditions it's being driven in off-road. Whereas the diff locker will essentially add or rather enhance the power delivered to each wheel and enable you or help you to get out of a sticky situation, especially if you're driving off-road. Now, initially, if you remember, the diff lockers, they were lockable hubs on the outside of a wheel, but that has now been taken on the inside. This is an electronic diff locker. You can select it from inside the vehicle, sitting in your driver's seat. Now, very importantly, the Mahindra Thar is a body-on-frame construction, which is ideal for off-road conditions. At the front, you've got double wishbones. It's an independent setup with a trailing link. And of course, you've also got stabilizer bars and a multi-link coil spring rear suspension. So that entire suspension and chassis setup will enable this, or rather has been perfected to enable you to go off-road. That's where the focus is. Second generation of the Thar is an absolutely brilliant vehicle overall. The styling is great. It's got a lot of street presence. It's got a lot of character. People have been looking and staring at this vehicle all across Bombay. The interior is also some of the finest that I've seen Mahindra execute on a vehicle of this order. The drivetrains as well. The diesel automatic that I have been driving is a fantastic engine. Linear, smooth, very refined for that matter. Not a lot of noise inside the cabin. Now, 2nd of October is when the Thar is expected to be released. Should be out in the market. Now, I'm expecting the price to be anywhere between about 8.5 to 9 lakh rupees, going all the way up to about 15 lakh rupees. At 15, it may be an on-road price. But let's see where Mahindra prices this.
Well, let's get Bert and Rohit on the show. I believe Bert is in his car once again, out on the streets.
Well, I am. Hi, Sohini. Hi, Rohit. And I've got a new car with me. And I've got another new car with me today. So
what are you
today,
driving?
for a change, I've got the Carnival with me. This is the top of the line, the 6-seater with the captain seats all across. Of course, that third row is folded flat. Yeah, that's where I am in the Carnival. And quite impressive. Quite nice car. Quite a nice car. I mean, pushing it a little too hard in the urban limits. And this is a large car, big car. But yeah, it's not a bad car at all. So you saw the story of the Thar.
Yes, so both I have a question for you before anyone asks you questions about the Thar. I have a question for you. So the hardtop, is it finally removable or not?
Well, the hardtop isn't removable in the sense that you can take it off, but it's not an easy job. It's not like you get up, drive up to Rajasthan, get into the desert and say, I'll take my, take the hardtop off and then go for a drive. No, it'll take you a bit of time because it's bolted on quite rigidly. So it does take some amount of time to get that off. You can also take off the doors for that matter and, make it kind of this convertible. However, Mahindra already opts, or rather gives you an option of a removable soft top, which isn't entirely removable. It's basically foldable. You can fold it down, put a cover over it, and it becomes a convertible SUV. I must admit over here at this point in time, the one mistake, or rather the one oversight that I had while driving the Thar, and which is a very, very important oversight, was that I didn't check if you could lower the windscreen. And this was brought to my attention by another off-roading enthusiast, Bob Rupani, my colleague. So Bob, in fact, actually asked me, is the windscreen removable, or rather, can it be, can it be laid down on top of the hood? And I didn't check for that. However, from what I recollect, and if you look at the images, there isn't a hinge in that windscreen, which means that windscreen can no longer be taken down. It cannot be lowered any longer.
Right. In fact, why I asked you this question about the roof being taken off is essentially because of the rear windshield. Because I saw in the video right now that it's essentially a two-step process where you first open the door with the spare wheel mounted on it, and then you open the window. And if it's not a removable roof, then I don't see the point of doing this. Or do you feel otherwise? No,
it's a terribly inconvenient job to do that with the hardtop. But that's why they've also given an option. So you don't really need to bother about taking off the hardtop. The hardtop is definitely a far more convenient feature on a vehicle of this order. Keep in mind, I've driven a soft top Mahindra for well over a decade, both the 540 and the 550, and I know how noisy and how inconvenient that can be, especially if you're doing speeds. So the soft top is for somebody who actually lives probably in Jaisalmer or Jaipur or some parts of Rajasthan, or you've got an off-road trail close to your house where you can just get out and have some fun. Or for that matter, it's also aimed, I think, at all of these national park, the forest rangers and off-road enthusiasts who do tours and who travel that way. The soft top is probably aimed at them, not necessarily at the urban commuter. In urban areas, what you definitely want is the hardtop.
Right.
All right. In fact, there were a lot of observations on YouTube also. Someone mentioned that there is no rear wiper as well for an off-roader like this.
No, there isn't a rear wiper. Not that you require one, but there is no off-road. There is no wiper in the rear. Again, Mahindra could have given that as an option, but well, that windscreen, you realize that it can be lifted off, and I think there are certain mechanical challenges that Mahindra is still trying to sort out. Keep in mind, the Thar that I drove and all the variants that were there on that particular drive, on the Freedom Drive on that day, did not have a roof mounted carrier. That's another very big exclusion as of now. At the time of launch, I don't know if that will be included in the overall package. I am not entirely certain. They figure out how they're going to mount a roof carrier onto that fiber top. So I think that will be a challenge, because keep in mind, if there are 4 people inside the Thar, there isn't a lot of space to put your luggage in. The storage space is very limited, extremely limited. And that's going to be a bit of a challenge. In fact, a few people have already spoken to me about buying the Thar, and the first thing they observed and they mentioned was that they're going to take the rear seats off, because it's just 2 of them, husband and wife, or couples, who've said we'll just very comfortably take off the rear 2 seats and use all that space otherwise.
All right. We'll just take a couple of questions. Sanjot has asked us, between the M Stallion and the M Hawk, which one is better?
Sanjot, how are you? How is Kolhapur? How's Maharashtra doing? Well, good to see you here. But the M Stallion versus the M Hawk, which is better? The petrol. The M Stallion is definitely the better engine. I definitely liked it a lot more, because the refinement is certainly of a higher order than the diesel engine. It's also more powerful. Comes in 2 states of torque. Now, this is something that I need to check with Mahindra. We haven't had the time to actually confer to talk to them and get this information. But here's what happens. The manual transmission has got 300 Newton meters of torque. The automatic has got 320 Newton meters of torque, which is a bit strange. I just need to find that out and come back with some more information on that. But all of those details will be diverged to us closer to the date of launch. But yeah, if you are looking for the Thar, then I would recommend the petrol and the petrol automatic for that matter, because I would assume that the larger part of usage for the Thar would be in your city, in your town, where you would be driving in crowded conditions, and that's a far more comfortable means of commuting in the Thar.
In fact, Bert, in the conversation below, he's mentioned that he's interested in the manual LX convertible petrol.
Like I said, we haven't driven the manuals at this point in time. We don't know. We don't have an opinion to give you on what the manual feels like, but I'm assuming in time we will be able to provide you with that.
All right. We have a question coming in from Silken. He wants to know, how is the vibration level in the Thar?
Negligible. I'm quite impressed, because the vibration levels are negligible both in the diesel or in the petrol. They're both, of course, the diesel would be of more question out here, but it's very refined. The NVH levels are just brilliant inside that cabin. And this is, of course, with the hardtop that I'm talking about, not the soft top. I haven't had the opportunity to drive a soft top Thar as of yet, but the hardtop was quite impressive.
All right. We have a question here from Hari Shankar Singh. He wants to know, there were rumors of a 5-door Thar in the works as well.
Well, yes, there are still rumors of a 5-door Thar, and Mahindra's probably looking at a slightly longer wheelbase version of something of that sort. But the more important question, I think this needs to be addressed over here, is the 3-door thing. There are a couple of concerns that I have with the 3-door. Is that one, with the 3-door, and this being the longer wheelbase, or rather the slightly longer wheelbase compared to the previous generation Thar, Mahindra could definitely have the door opening, could have widened it a bit more. Now, the only other reason that I think they didn't do that is also because in the future they may have to put in a second door behind that, and then it becomes easier to make it, I mean, common parts again. So it'd be easier to just have one door panel for the 3-door, and the same thing going on to the 5-door in the future. It may not come out as the Thar itself, may come out as some other iteration, but this is what it is. So in the 3-door, however, given that you have to get into the rear seats, into the second row seats through the front door itself, you have to fold down the seat. They could have offered a little more space, probably an inch more or two, which have made it getting into that rear seat a lot easier than what it is right now.
But Wayne wants to know, has the suspension of the Thar improved compared to the previous version?
Wayne, considerably better than what it used to be before. Again, independent front suspension with a multi-link at the rear. Keep in mind, this is not a cheap setup. Also, for that matter, it's a fairly expensive setup, and that's one of the reasons I think that the Thar may not come in at that 14 to 16 lakh bracket. May even go up a little higher where pricing is concerned. And the ones at the lower end, for that matter, may not get all the trimmings that you get in the Thar at this point in time. But the suspension is brilliantly sorted out. I think it was fantastic for what it tends to be doing largely, which is drive people around in comfort for that matter. It was a little bouncy initially, but I mean, this is something that Mahindra has always done with their SUVs. Most of the SUVs, without a full load, the SUVs feel a little bouncy. They jump around a bit more than you would expect to do, to get in a SUV from any other manufacturer. But also keep in mind, this is a body-on-frame chassis, so that kind of that bounciness, a little bit of that body movement is expected. But I'll tell you this: body movement is brilliantly controlled. It was quick, it was precise, it was stable, it was everything that you would want a well-built SUV to do. The Thar was all of that.
All right, we have a question from Nitin coming in. He wants to know what is the length of the Thar? Can it get tax rebates for being less than 4 meters? And there's one more question I'll just club in. As your experience, Kiran wants to know what is the price? What will the price be? Will it be value for money?
Will it be value for money? Okay, let me come to the length. Yes, it's under the 4-meter length. The tax benefits from that will definitely be passed on to you for sure. Mahindra have kept the length under 4 meters. It's 3,900 and something. I don't exactly remember the figure, but it is under 4 meters. Now, sorry, the other question was on the price. I expect the price to be somewhere in the region, like I said, what everyone's saying is about 14 to 16 lakhs, but I expect at the top end, the automatic diesel or even the automatic petrol may go higher than 16 lakh rupees. Keep in mind, there's a lot of kit on it that's being offered. It's not just the suspension; it's also the differentials, the brake locking system. So there's all of that included, which gives you the kind of off-road credibility you would want, but also the ability to crawl through city conditions comfortably, to drive brilliantly. It's an automatic at the end of the day. You've got the diesel and the petrol options. There is some substantial amount of kit inside that, and I think that will raise the price. Now, if Mahindra can drop the price below 15 lakh rupees, get it down to somewhere about, on an average, around 13 lakh rupees, they would have a killer product on their hands. But again, it may be just wishful thinking.
Right. But there were a couple of questions on YouTube which you hadn't answered, and these were interesting. Professor M wants to know, can he buy a hard top, remove it, and assemble the soft top when required based on his mood?
Well, of course you can do that. Absolutely. There's no issue why you cannot do that. Just the fitments are a bit trickier. Keep in mind, there aren't mounts for you to put a soft top on just like that. So you would have to put that additional mount, then take it off. So it's a very tricky system. You can do it. It's a modification that can be done quite fairly simply. But why do you want to get into that? I mean, that's just a lot more components that you have to take off and put on back again. It's not worth. It's definitely not worth it.
All right, and this is a very valid question from Amit Kumar. He wants to know, since you were driving it in the rain, was there any water leakage inside from any of the joints as it used to leak in the old Thar?
I wish there was some water leakage. It would have meant that we were driving in off-road conditions, splashing through pools of water, wading, using that amazing wading depth, some 600 mm wading depth. I would have loved to have done that and got some water inside the Thar. Also, keep in mind, all of that interior is, the dashboard and all the components in there. They're washable. I mean, you can just take a hose down and wash everything down inside. So, but are there any leaks that will sink? Not in the hard top, definitely not in the hard top. I'm not sure about what the soft top is going to be like, but keep in mind, I had a soft top Mahindra 540, 550, and I used it for decades, and it didn't really have any leaks despite us driving in all seasons, long distance also for that matter. There weren't any leaks. However, having said that, after about 5 or 6 years of usage of that, there will definitely be some wear in those canvas tops or in those Rexine kind of tops that they used to offer back then. But I'm not sure what the quality is like right now. It looks pretty, it's definitely significantly better than what it used to be, significantly better. But yes, in time, soft tops can deteriorate. That is fabric material. It will deteriorate, and you could expect some leaks.
All right, we'll just take a couple of more. Sorry, I've just lost this. This is the question. Siddharth wants to know, what's the experience like in the rear seat? Is it passenger friendly?
It's very passenger friendly, Siddharth. It's quite comfortable in the back seat. Having said that, it's strictly a 2-seater. and a two-seater where you sit pretty close to each other for that matter, because the wheel wells intrude fairly deep into the cabin. It's almost a foot away from the body panel. That's how deep the wheel well intrudes into the cabin. What this also does is, and which I was unable to show you at the first drive when I drove it first, was that there is very little space under the front seat to put both your feet, because the transmission tunnel or the console, the center console that is there, that as well comes into the rear passenger cabin. That just leaves enough room for you to put one foot under the driver's seat and then one foot again just in the gap where between the console and the seats. So it's comfortable. I wouldn't really advise someone to do a very long distance journey with larger people sitting in the back seat, taller as in more mature adults for that matter. It could be a little inconvenient. Also, getting older people into that back seat would be a little tough, because ingress and egress into that is a bit of a challenge right now. Youngsters, teenagers, very easy. They'd manage. They'd be very comfortable in that space. They'd be pretty cool out there.
All right, and we'll just take a final question. I'll club two questions here. What's your pick, the hard top or the soft top version? Is it noisy, the soft top one at high speeds? And also, is this practical for daily use?
Absolutely. I think the Thar is, first I'll take the second part. Thar is very practical for daily use. I would love to use one every day to work for that matter. It's got a lot of style. It's got a lot of class. It's something that everybody looks at. I mean, a lot of people appreciate it. On that drive that I went on, there were dozens of other motorists who came up to my window, rolled down their windows, gave me a thumbs up, gave me the fantastic, great, clapped, cheered me on and said, fantastic car. So yes, in that sense, the Mahindra Thar gets a lot of attention. It looks fabulous. But here there is a point at which I'll come to after I answer these questions. On the other hand, sorry, what is the first part of the question? Sorry.
The soft top or is it noisy
As of
at
now,
high speed?
Jay, I have just driven the hard top, so I don't have a comment on the soft top as of now. I won't be able to tell you what it feels like at the time of test. I do hope we get our hands on a soft top, but I would believe the soft top is largely for those looking for a very active outdoorsy lifestyle, who are going to be driving their Thar outdoors in the wild, going off-road frequently, because that's where you'd enjoy the advantage of that soft top. You can just take it down and then continue driving.
All right.
Okay, let me come back to the point that I was going to make earlier, and this is again a very, very important point. Now, we've all seen what the Thar looks like, the design and the styling bit. I mean, it is fantastic. Everybody's been equating it to a smaller Jeep Wrangler for that matter. And here's a very interesting part. Mahindra owns Pininfarina. They have a design house, one of the most esteemed, legendary, reputed and talented design houses in the world. Something absolutely, I mean, they've done some stunning designs. I don't understand at this point in time, if Mahindra wanted to reinvent the Thar, why didn't they go to Pininfarina? Now, my bad. This thought popped up into my head at a much later stage. I didn't realize this, or definitely I would have posed this question to Dr. Goenka that day, to Vijay Nakra, to Rajesh Jujurikar for that matter, to ask him as to why, it had to take on that similar footprint, or rather the similar silhouette as the Jeep Wrangler, and not kind of gain its own individual design language, set off on its own journey, set off on a completely different tangent to what the Wrangler looks like. It's a fantastic product at the end of the day, no denying that. It looks brilliant, but it's somewhere down the line still deeply rooted in Jeep's legacy as well, because that's what the Jeep looks like. That's where it has evolved to, and the Wrangler is there, and now you've got a smaller version of it, which is the Mahindra Thar. And I think that's something that keeps coming down and bogging down in my mind, saying why couldn't Mahindra go down that route? They could have used Pininfarina and got something entirely new and different.
Right. Rohit, would you like to add something more to that?
No, in fact, I have a few questions to ask Bert on the Thar again. I completely agree with what you're saying, Bert, and I somewhere feel that they're still sort of trying to capitalize on those roots, that Jeep legacy that they have always capitalized on all these years for a lot of their cars, including the MM540s and 550s. So my question to you is, somewhere in this drive of yours where I saw your review and I saw the hard top versus a soft top, and how they've tried to also make this into a viable alternative. At least they believe that this could be a viable alternative to the soft-roader SUVs that are already in that segment. When you're talking about, say, 14 to 16 lakh rupees, you already have the Koreans present there, you have the Japs, you have the sub 4 meter SUVs, and somewhere they want to sort of fit into that as well is what I believe, and that is what they are trying to do by making it, more of a vehicle that can be used for everyday, using in the city, your highway drives, and not just keep it as a very lifestyle product, a very hardcore off-roader kind of a product. What is your thought on this? Are they trying to do that? Did they communicate that to you that they
Absolutely,
want to sort of eat into
absolutely.
that pie as well?
Absolutely. The effort Mahindra is making is to make this a more mainstream vehicle for that matter. So, like the Wrangler, also for that matter, has also taken on a very mainstream role. It's not just for off-road enthusiasts. And while a lot of off-road enthusiasts, use that vehicle, keep in mind the Wrangler is one of the highest sold SUVs in the United States of America. They sell hundreds of thousands of those SUVs there. And I think somewhere down the line, Mahindra also wants to take on this, play a similar role in India over here, where they want to sell a lot of the Thars. They want people to grab it, and utilize not just the cosmetic value of it, the way it looks, and the attention grabber that it is, but also to realize that perhaps at that one point in time where I want to go off road, where I want to experience a new lifestyle, where I want to do something different, I want to do something unique. Everybody in their minds wants to get out on an adventure. Here's a vehicle that can actually deliver that to you. So it's a very, very valued and a very value added statement to the Thar as well, because not none of the other SUVs in this category, in this price bracket, expected price bracket, have got a 4x4 drivetrain at all. No, neither all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive or a low ratio transfer case. They've got nothing. They're all two-wheel drive SUVs. They're sports utility vehicles. They aren't really off-roaders for that matter. But here along comes the Thar, and it's changing that proposition and saying, yes, in my DNA, I've got the 4x4 ability. I don't have to worry about that. Let me see, or rather, let me offer you something which is very different from what everybody else is offering in that sense. But add to that, I've got the refinement, I've got the comfort, I've got the luxury, I've got the contemporariness that an SUV of this order has to offer its consumers.
Right.
That's it, Rohit. No more
Yeah,
questions.
that's no. I think I'll want to
But I
drive the
think
Thar now.
Rohit, either Rohit wants to drive it or Rohit wants to buy it. Which one is it, Rohit?
No,
I
I think
think
I'll
he'll
just
pass.
drive it for now. I'm not buying anything right now. Not in this
He's more
situation
of a
now.
two-wheeler guy. He's not the four-wheeler type
Yes,
owner.
all my
He's an
investments are for two
off-roading
wheels, not for
guy.
four wheels.
So
See, that is why whenever we in this show, right behind Rohit, there's always a helmet, and I'm always in a car.
Oh, this side there.
that's true.
Right there, that's his eye right there. Right?
That's true. But I
Yeah.
have to give it to you, Bert. You've done a great job in those 3 hours compact. You've managed to give us a proper review of the entire Thar. All the questions that people could have asked for, you've answered all of them.
Well, there's still a
So
lot
we'll
more questions, to be honest. There's still a lot more questions. There's still a lot more things to discover about the Thar. I'm eagerly looking forward to spending a lot more time in it, because yes, there were certain assumptions that I made that were probably wrong, and there are certain there's certain learnings that I need to make in the future after having driven that. And I do hope we get the opportunity pretty soon to drive the Thar extensively and get you a proper full-blown report on that. It may not be me, maybe somebody else. I know Bob is inching to get his
I think
hands on
all
the
of us
Thar.
are. I think all of us are, but I think we need to have a team
Exactly.
outing
Just
with
like
the
you and
Thar.
everybody else. All of us are, waiting to get our hands on the Thar, and it shouldn't be too far away. I mean, I can honestly, of course, let's skip 2020. Let's just assume that 2020 never happened. But next year, I mean, I'm only looking forward to making that trip into Ladakh or to the Spiti Valley, to I
Absolutely.
don't know where, somewhere up north in the Thar. That's a given. I'm definitely doing that.
right on that hopeful
On
note.
that note,
Let's let's take a look at all the news from earlier this week, and we'll come back to another story as well. Now, we'll start off with Renault. They have just launched the 156 PS 1.3 liter turbo petrol Duster starting at 10.49 lakh rupees for the manual variant. That is being offered in 3 trims, while the base CVT model has been priced at 12.99 lakh rupees. Moving on, BMW India has just launched the limited edition of the 3 Series GT Shadow Edition, a petrol-only offering at 42.50 lakh rupees ex-showroom. The bookings can be made online on the new BMW online sales channel. MG Motor India has partnered with self-drive rentals provider ZoomCar for its subscription program. Via the subscription program, the Hector ZS EV, the Hector Plus will be available on 12 to 14 to 36-month lease plans. MG Motor and ZoomCar will also provide 24/7 support to their subscribers for bookings and vehicle listings. The customer experience will focus on enabling state-of-the-art technology for customer support service, including on-ground fleet management, logistics support, vehicle scheduling, and onboarding. There's exciting news coming in from Tata Motors as well. They've just rolled out 1,000 units of the Nexon EV in just over 6 months of the electric SUV's debut in India, which now makes the Nexon EV the best-selling EV in India with over 62% of the market share as of the first quarter of this financial year. Kia Motors India has started accepting bookings for the upcoming Sonet SUV. The bookings can be made at your nearest dealership or at the Kia or on the Kia India website for a token amount of 25,000 rupees. Similarly, starting tomorrow, Toyota Kirloskar Motor will start accepting bookings for the Toyota Urban Cruiser in India, either online or at a dealership for a token amount of 11,000 rupees. What we do know now is that the Urban Cruiser will have the same 1.5-litre petrol engine as the Brezza, but will also get a 48-volt mild hybrid setup for the automatic versions. All right. So that was a quick roundup of the news because I do believe we also have a very exciting comparison test, which Rohit.
Yes, so before we get to the comparison test, I don't want you to wrap up the news without any two-wheeler news. So I have two bits of very exciting news that has literally just come in. First of which is the CBR 1000 RRR. We had already told you that Honda had opened bookings for it in India. Now we have a confirmed date for the launch. It's happening on the 27th of this month. So that's not too far away. Next week is when the official launch happens and you get an official idea of the pricing. In fact, the pricing is going to be very, very high this time around if you were to compare it to the regular Fireblade that was on sale all this while. But we'll talk about that as and when it happens. That is the 27th of August. The second bit of news is earlier today, I was a part of a closed group discussion with Triumph. There is some exciting news coming from the Triumph camp. The only thing that I can tell you is it's going to be out on the 25th of August, and I'm very excited about it. It is a very exciting news if you are planning to shop in a... Okay, let me not talk about it. Everything is on embargo, so stay tuned to Overdrive till the 25th of August. On 25th, we'll have a lot of information for you on a brand new Triumph that is coming out, and I'm telling you, there's a lot to be excited about. So these are the two bits of two-wheeler news that I can give you, and let's head over to the comparison. So earlier this week,
Rohit,
because you look pretty cheerful. You're grinning from year to year.
Yes, because they've shown us something today, they've shown us something today, and they've told us a lot of info about that new product. And believe me, there's a lot to be excited about. So yeah, it's going to happen on the 25th.
I can see you grinning. I can see you grinning and already dipping into your savings. Is it?
No, I won't do that. But yeah, like I said, I can't say much. There's so much that I want to talk about, but unfortunately, I can't say much at this point of time.
So when is the embargo till?
It's still the 25th of August. So on 25th, we'll have a lot of information on Overdrive about what this new product is. Not too far away. Yeah, not too far away.
Perfect. All right, Sonia.
So I think, Sohini, we can move on to the next bit, which is the comparative story that we did. In fact, I hosted that review, and we drove the T-Roc and the Skoda Karoq, two siblings based on the same platform, both imported into India in their Euro spec avatar, but in a right-hand drive version, of course. And I think these are two products that have gotten off to a brilliant start for Skoda and Volkswagen. So take a look at what we feel about these two when we pit them against each other.
Some concessions offered by the Indian government roughly translates to allowing car brands to import up to 2,500 completely built units without the need of homologating them. Now that essentially means that they save a lot of money. These car brands can then pass on those benefits to the customer. At the same time, they can have jazzy imported products on their portfolio. Now the Volkswagen Group has jumped onto that opportunity and brought two cars to India via this route. One is the T-Roc and the other is the Karoq. Now, both these cars make use of these concessions. They are also tied together by the common thread of the MQB platform. But compared to some of the previous sibling rivalry or the platform sharing that we've seen from these two brands, like the Rapid and the Vento or the Jetta and the Octavia, these two are actually quite different from each other. And you'll notice that on the spec sheet or the moment you park the two cars next to each other. T-Roc is smaller in body measurements and in the wheelbase too. Add to it the sharply raked rear windshield, the pronounced haunches and the flared wheel arches, and you realize that the T-Roc looks more like a hatchback on stilts, but a large premium hatchback at that, like the Golf. And despite that crossover styling, it has plenty of appeal for someone looking for a compact and sporty package. The Karoq, on the other hand, with its squared-off wheel arches, the split lighting elements and the sharp creases, draws design inspiration from the Kodiaq. And in doing so, it looks like a scaled-down version of the three-row Skoda flagship. That instantly gives it a premium poise and has no trouble establishing it as a mini SUV. Being half a size larger certainly works in the Karoq's favor. Add to that the boxy, tall and upright proportions, and it looks the more SUV-ish of the two. At the same time, it doesn't look very unique, still looks like any other crossover, doesn't cast a unique silhouette the way my favorite Yeti did. Now, I like to blame that to Volkswagen's modular architectures. You see, all of their new modular architectures have typically given cars based on them a slightly lower ride height, a slightly overall height as well. And that makes them appear more like rugged crossovers or rugged hatchbacks or station wagons compared to that SUV stance. And the Karoq is 148mm longer and 51mm taller. And while both these cars ride on 17-inch wheels shod with 215 section tires, the Karoq sits on a 48mm longer wheelbase, which makes it look more imposing and has a roomier cabin than the T-Roc. And that makes an immediate difference at the rear. The space is a lot more than what you get in the T-Roc. You can see it with the kind of knee room that I have, better foot space as well. It also feels a lot airier in here because the panoramic roof extends all the way over the rear seat. The aperture for the rear window is larger too, and then the brighter upholstery also helps to that effect. The Karoq has easier ingress and egress, better headroom, better seat bolstering and more premium upholstery. The angle of the rear seats is a bit upright and is more or less similar in both the cars. A 521-litre boot versus the T-Roc's 445 means that the Karoq is more versatile too. So by now you've got a hint of why this car is charging you more monies. Also common at the back is equipment like the AC vents, a 12-volt charging socket and cup holders in the center armrest, though the T-Roc offers a bit more adjustability for the cup holders. Now, in terms of the layout, it is a typical grid kind of layout that we've seen on Volkswagen and Skoda cars. Now, here's a little bit of a mixed bag. Depending on how many cars you've owned in the past from the Skoda brand, you may like or not like this because this layout is very similar to what we've seen in the Octavia, in the Superb, even the Kodiaq. And if you have already extensively used these cars, you may not feel this to be novel enough, different enough. But if you're coming to this layout for the first time, it will feel nice and premium. In fact, the materials are also soft touch type, which you don't get in the T-Roc, and that is what I like. The functionality and the slick operation of the infotainment is similar to both the cars, but you might like the infotainment in the Karoq a little bit better because of the pictorial layout and interface that it uses. It just makes it easier to use and it's easier to get used to. Even in terms of the instrumentation, it's got a digital panel just the way you get in the T-Roc, but the layouts are much better in this, a lot more pleasing. So while there is no SIM card integration in the infotainment system of either of these cars, both brands do offer you OBD devices that can be fitted inside the car for certain functions like geofencing, vehicle tracking, theft alerts and all that. At the same time, the T-Roc also goes a step further and gives you these hotkeys for SOS and RSA, which means that if you get into an unfortunate situation like an accident or a breakdown, you have these keys to make direct calls to the call center and get yourself attended to. These SOS and RSA functions in the T-Roc will use your paired phone to make the distress calls.
Right, Rohit, there's a second half of the video as well.
Yes, so let's continue with that. We just took a look at the design and the cabin, but the engine is what essentially, and the platform is what unites these two vehicles because it's a common engine with the cylinder deactivation technology, and I think it's a lovely engine. If I had to choose one, well, let's just take a look at this and then let's talk about which I would choose.
Now, both the cars give you a very nice visibility. You can, of course, adjust the seat height to get you a better view of the road electronically in the Karoq as well. But neither of these cars are going to give you that commanding view of the road that you get from an SUV. These feel a lot more car-like to drive in comparison. That said, the T-Roc has a very driver-oriented dashboard and switchgear layout which I really like. The T-Roc secures the cabin with 6 airbags while the Karoq trumps it with 9. That said, both cars have earned a 5-star Euro NCAP rating. But I'll side with the T-Roc here because it has also got the SOS and RSS switches we spoke of earlier and a lane keep assistant. The lane keep assist, it works very well in our conditions as well, and you don't necessarily need to have roads with clear lane markings like these for it to work. In fact, I was testing this car, driving it in the rains on some of the lesser highways, and still that lane keep assist worked really well. The more I drive this car, the more I like it, and that's down to two things: the engine and the handling dynamics, both of which are sharper than what the Karoq has to offer. Now, given the lighter construction of this car, it also makes it a lot more eager than the Karoq, and then that attitude is complemented by the sharp turn-ins that this car has to offer, and that is despite the front-wheel driven architecture. So overall, this is the one I would choose if I wanted to drive myself. But at the same time, the T-Roc feels extremely stiff like a sports hatch. None settles quite quickly over ruts, joints and sharper bumps. In fact, the Karoq feels a bit laid back in comparison to the T-Roc, and it shows in the acceleration figures. The T-Roc is almost a second quicker in our tests, and that too in the wet. So that speaks volumes about the kind of engine tuning that has been made for the T-Roc. Of course, the lighter construction helps as well. The 1.5-litre turbo petrol engine common to these cars comes with cylinder deactivation and start-stop tech for improving fuel economy. And while the two-cylinder operation in low-load conditions is hard to notice, the Karoq manages to run a bit more relaxed at highway speeds compared to the T-Roc. And that shows in the fuel economy differences too. Now, when I had sampled this engine in the T-Roc and in my review, I had said that the engine has enough low-end and mid-range grunt for you to not miss a diesel in the lineup. However, when it comes to the Karoq, well, once I remember how maniac that 2-litre engine in the Yeti was, and that 4x4 drivetrain, the performance of that gearbox, the diesel engine, the powertrain, it was just awesome. I miss all of that. So when I compare the 1.5 with that diesel, and I'm bound to do that, it just doesn't feel as good. But on its own, it's a very likable motor, it's a very likable powertrain. Both the cars come with a 7-speed DSG and have paddle shifters for manual control. But when you have a sportier bent of mind, leave the gearbox in the sport mode and you won't need to touch the paddles at all. While talking about sporty drives, the Karoq doesn't feel as sharp on the bends or the turn-ins as the T-Roc. And while both these cars are not even in the same pin code as Plush, this is the one that's easier to live with because of the softer setup. But that said, both of them are quite stiff, and especially when driving on mild trails like these or really poor road surfaces, the car will rock on its sides and it will make you move quite a bit inside the cabin. And that is where these handles come in handy, sometimes for you, sometimes for your co-passenger. Now, this car doesn't have any kind of driving modes. There is no off-road mode either. There is no terrain system or a terrain selector like you get in the Harrier or the Seltos or the Creta. Now, that's of course is a function of the traction control. You don't get that in either of these cars. So definitely be careful while venturing out into such terrain, because while all of this is fine as long as it's dry, it gets a little tricky when things get a little slippery. So while we did get them dirty while driving up to the green lands during our shoot, these are soft roaders after all, as much of their competition is, and they don't really like getting dirty. If either of these is going to be the only car in your garage, then I see the T-Roc to be fit for millennials or solo drivers or small nuclear families who do not mind that tight cabin. But if you have to make that more family-oriented choice, if you want a car that is fit for 4 adults who are going to be traveling together all the time, in that case, it is the Karoq. It is better than this car in all other respects. So even with that additional price premium that you have to pay, it's still the more value for money package, the more sensible buy, and the clear winner of this test.
All right, Rohit, you wanted to tell us something in the while we were taking a break in between?
No, not really, but I'm going to take a few questions that we have here. I think I'll take Nitin Joshua's question first, where he's asking about the Tygoon and the Vision I, and when it arrives, what happens to the Karoq and the T-Roc? They offer more space for way less money. Well, that's not true because both these vehicles, the Tygoon and the Vision Iron, when they see the light of day, they are going to be obviously smaller, one size smaller than these two cars. They're essentially looking at targeting the likes of the Brezza and the Creta with this. They're not really, going up against the likes of the Compass. So it's essentially the T-Roc and the Karoq that are competing with the cars like the Compass. So they are a size smaller, the Tygoon and the Vision Iron. Yes, they'll definitely be cheaper as compared to these, but they'll not be any roomier. They'll in fact be lesser on the space that they offer. But in terms of features, yes, they might offer a few better features here and there, depending on what Skoda and Volkswagen finally plan for these cars. Because remember, these two are going to be the make or break vehicle for both these brands now. Whereas the T-Roc and the Karoq, like I mentioned in the review, they make use of the new concessions that are being offered by the government, and they can come in through the CBU route without the need of homologation. So that is where the difference is going to be. They can't be tailor-made for India in that sense. That is why I'm constantly saying that these are Euro spec vehicles, and that is why they feel a little stiffer and all of that. Now, to I think move to the next question, which is about the
There was
Jeep
one from
Compass.
Eddie as well, actually. He was the first one
Okay.
to ask us something, in fact. He wanted us to know whether any of these cars have the zero bacteria air purifier, as many of the cars are coming with this feature today.
No, I doubt if even the upcoming Tygoon and the Vision Iron are going to have that. This is something that we've only seen the Koreans do so far. We in fact saw Hyundai do it first, and then obviously because of the platform sharing, it's also available to Kia, and that is what we are seeing in both their cars now. But I don't see this happening anytime soon with at least the Tygoon or the Vision Iron or any of the competitors for that matter. But this is something that I think a lot of other car makers should also look into because it's not a very difficult technology to integrate. We've seen aftermarket air purifiers being installed by a lot of people in the cabins of their cars, and I see that even car makers should now start looking at this because if they are benchmarking the two successful products from Kia and Hyundai in both the spaces, the sub 4 meter as well as the midsize, they should definitely have these in their upcoming cars as well. But as of now, I don't see any car on the horizon offering that as a part of their kit.
All right. Vaibhav has a question as well. Jeep Compass Limited Plus Auto versus the Skoda Karoq.
Right. So if we are talking about the petrol variants here, because that's all that the Karoq is offering at the moment. So if we talk about the petrol variant of the Jeep Compass, I would choose anything else over that petrol engine. I do not like that 1.4 liter petrol at all. It is terrible on the fuel efficiency. It's decent on the power, but terrible on the fuel efficiency. And after driving the T-Roc and the Karoq, I mean, it's out in the open that it is possible to have a smaller engine powering SUVs of these size or crossovers of these size and still get good fuel economy out of it. So, if I was buying, I would certainly go with the Karoq. It also feels a little nicer inside the cabin. I love the Jeep Compass. But if I had to choose a Compass, it would obviously be the diesel powertrain. It will not be the petrol. So if I was you and if I had to answer your question, the confusion for me wouldn't be that big. I would go with a Compass diesel. Hopefully the Trailhawk because it's being offered at excellent prices right now. The discounts are really nice and it almost puts it in the same zone as the on-road price of the Karoq. So I would definitely get myself a Compass diesel.
Yeah, he actually mentioned that in the trailing comments that he's looking for the diesel. He forgot to mention that.
Right. So then that's my verdict for you. I would go with the Compass diesel. It feels like a nicer car and it feels like a more capable car overall.
Okay, here's another question, not about the story, but which cars will give competition to the Tygoon?
Well, looking at what we saw at the Auto Expo where they showed us the concept, I think Volkswagen somewhere is going to give us a vehicle that competes with the likes of the Brezza, the Venue, and the Sonnet, but the pricing is still going to be closer to that of the Seltos or the Creta. So, will that be value enough for you? Is something that we need to wait and watch after we actually drive the car. But knowing how good Volkswagen vehicles feel in terms of the quality, in terms of the drivability, I think it's still going to find a lot of takers. I'm not sure if they'll be able to give the same kind of features that the Koreans are giving at the moment. It's certainly not going to be comparable in space to the likes of the Harrier or the Hector, but that price bracket is going to put it right in between all of these vehicles, and that's essentially going to be the natural competition in terms of the pricing, whereas in terms of the sizing, it is still going to be the sub 4 meter vehicles that will contend with.
All right, Rohit, there's one more question. Very important question, in fact. Is Harley Davidson exiting India?
Well, that was the first question that we got today the moment we went live, and I hope it doesn't happen. But yeah, the conditions currently look very unfavorable for all the big brands as of now, all the brands that are dealing in big bikes only, and brands who do not have a mass market product to sell in the Indian market. For all of them, the conditions are looking unfavorable. Even for someone like Triumph, who is going on launching new models in the country. If you look at the sales figures that we've seen so far for all these big bike makers, for that matter, it's averaging out at about one sale per dealership. It's that bad. So, I mean, our heart goes out to all these manufacturers. We know they are really, them and the dealers are really suffering in the current scheme of things. And that is where probably Harley Davidson's decision to, let's not say decision, but they are mulling the whole India exit plan right now. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope the conditions improve for them, and I hope that they stay back in India. But yeah, at least as of now, the reports suggest that they might be looking at exiting from the Indian market.
All right. Well, there's a question from Mark. When will the Jeep Renegade make it to India?
Mark, well, Jeep has been planning the Renegade for quite some time now. They've had a lot of plans, but let's also keep in mind that there are certain challenges around offering a product of that sort, and that hasn't got to do with development as much as, getting the right environment and having the right funds to launch that vehicle in the market, making all of that possible, as well as production issues, various other concerns. They also don't need to deliver the new Renegade to overseas markets as well. So all of this will matter where for the Renegade to come out. Now, having said that, the Renegade was supposed to have come out almost 2 years ago, but nothing has happened on that front. And I'm hoping at least in 2021 they have some. There is some amount of movement on that product. If not 21, possibly 22 is by when we expect that to come.
All right. Rohit, any news on the Honda CB650R? Viraj wants to know.
Not on the CB650R, but we are told that after the success of the CB300, Honda India is very strongly considering bringing the 650R to India as well. But at the same time, we've told you on multiple occasions on the digital show as well that Honda is also looking at a new 500cc platform. Now, the 500cc platform, the parallel twin platform, already exists in the global market. But why I say new is because they're looking at a new generation of that parallel twin 500cc platform, which will be produced locally in India and then exported out to the world. So they are now looking at sort of fitting that in as well, and then also getting the pricing right. Because if you were to compare these motorcycles from Honda, the 650s, to the other 650s in the market, which are parallel twin engine from Kawasaki, there is a big price difference between the two. So Honda will essentially be looking at all of these because the 650 is from Honda are 4 cylinders. They'll have to place in those parallel twin 500s also. So the pricing is going to be key, and I'm not sure if the CB650 particularly might appeal to many with the kind of pricing that it might come at. So that is why Honda might look at a similar looking motorcycle with that new 500cc parallel twin engine, a CB500 at that. So there's too much speculation on all of these at the moment, but yeah, they are keenly looking at that space because of the success that they've got with the CB300.
All right. But Rohan wants to know the Tata HBX that we saw at Auto Expo. When will it come to India, and should he go for that, or should he be interested in the Kia Sonet?
At this point in time, if you were in a rush to buy something, the Sonet is probably the product to go in for. Keep in mind there have been several delays at Tata Motors' end, and all of those are because of the situation that we find ourselves in. So yes, the Gravitas is expected, the HBX is expected, but the timelines haven't been announced as of yet. They will come up in some time, but I would put this at spread over the next 4 to 5 months is when we should hear more about the HBX.
All right. Ashwin
Right, and to add to
know-
that, sorry, Sohini. So to add to what Bert just said, the HBX again, the second part of your question where you compare it to the Sonet, it's not really a Sonet rival. It's a size smaller. The HBX is essentially going to compete with the likes of the KUV 100 or the Maruti Suzuki Espresso. It's not really one of the rivals to the Venue or the Sonet or those sub 4 meter cars.
All right.
That's
I'm
right.
just. Okay, here we have one from Ravindra saying he's planning to book the Harrier automatic. Your thoughts?
Well, go for it, Ravindra. I mean, you'll enjoy the automatic. There's a lot of space that you get. That's one of the biggest value propositions of the Harrier. The automatic, well, it works well. It's a good transmission if you're living in urban conditions, in urban areas. Then it's a good choice to have. And you get a good set of features inside it. So yes, it does make good sense. Having said that, there are better options available from again non all-wheel drive versions that are available from Hyundai, whether it's the Creta or the Seltos, which is from Kia. I mean, you can even go a price higher, and you've got the Compass as well. But these are essentially the slightly better options to the Harrier in this space.
All right. Rohit, Ashwin has a question saying he wants to know whether the Seltos Turbo DCT can be compared to the T-Roc or the Karoq. Which option is better?
Yeah, it is comparable in a way, in terms of the size at least. But somewhere both the T-Roc and the Karoq just feel a notch above these cars. Of course, in terms of the spec and in terms of the features that the Seltos will offer, they are nowhere comparable. The Seltos or the Creta will give you a lot more features. But in terms of drivability, I would still choose either the T-Roc, like I said in my review, or I would go with the Karoq because that engine just feels a lot nicer to drive as compared to what the Koreans are offering at the moment.
All right. We have a question about the Citro. Someone had a question asking us whether the Citro is coming to India.
Well,
Jerome.
they are, of course. They are, of course, coming down to India. I mean, they've established everything that needs to be established in this country already. But yes, again, because of the lockdown, because of the situation that's there both in Europe as well as in India now, plans are on the back foot at this moment, and it's just a matter of time before announcements will be made and products will be revealed and shown. We already know that the C5 Cross is what is coming down to India, so that's one of the first products, and subsequently there are going to be others as well. But like I said, it's just a matter of wait and watch. Citroen will be out with news soon.
All right. We'll just take one last question. Rohit, is the Speed Twin expected to relaunch in India?
Yes, it might come down because the Thruxton is the gray area. Triumph is not very sure about whether Thruxton should be launched or continue to sell in India because they hardly sold any numbers. Same thing for the Speed Twin as well. But yeah, I think they will still bring it back because it's still a very nicely priced product, and that is the reason why they will and they should bring it back in the BS6 avatar.
All right. I think that's about all the questions that we could take on this week's show. But I believe you've been out on the streets of Mumbai, going from one police station to the other and handing
Yes,
over oximeters.
absolutely. I mean, it's a wonderful job that we did recently. We'll show you a clip of this now. But here's what we've been going to Ladakh so very often. This is the season. This is the time when we're usually in Ladakh celebrating India's Independence Day, heading up into the Himalayas, raising and hoisting the national flag. Cheering on along with the soldiers who stand guard on our borders, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. Unfortunately, this year we couldn't do that. We couldn't emulate the same. But what we did instead was, we wanted to still continue the tradition of honoring the heroes that protect and guard us, who keep a watch over us, for that matter, who keep a watch over over the citizens of Mumbai, and that's the Mumbai police force. So we partnered with Audi yet again, and we handed over these oximeters, as you can see out there, to several of the police stations. Of course, we also handed a lot of them down to the main headquarters, from where they will be distributed as well to a few more police stations. But it was a fantastic journey going there, giving these oximeters to these police men. Seeing their reaction also, for that matter, because a lot of them work in very in areas which are COVID infected, and they're one of the few people who actually venture into that area, apart from the doctors. And while we just decided to do our part, go ahead and while not celebrate what they're doing, but definitely honor and respect the way that they've done it, and the hardships that they've gone through, trying to maintain and keep the city under in order through that lockdown. I think it was a fantastic experience. It was a fantastic journey initiative that Overdrive has taken yet again by going and saluting and serving or rather honoring these heroes in Mumbai city.
In fact, that was just a clip of what we have. This entire story will be up on our YouTube channel, on Instagram, on Facebook as well by tomorrow itself. So take a look at that story, and a big thank you to our police force, not just in Mumbai, but every other city in our country.
And I'd also like to, at this point, I'd also like to thank Audi. I mean, we've continued this tradition. I mean, we started off with IQD. We will have IQD again in the future. Once the lockdown opens up and things resume and come back to normal, IQD will happen again. But I greatly appreciate the fact that they have partnered with us. It's been 7 years since IQD has happened. This would have been the 8th year, but it gives us the opportunity to run this for 3 more years at least. Is what I want to do. I mean, Audi, come on, if you're out there listening to me, at least 3 more years. You want to do a decade of the IQD and then probably do a very, very big one on the 10th year, and then a few more after that, also for that matter. But I really appreciate that they've come together with us on this initiative. I'd also like to thank Mitocon, who Biomed. These are the manufacturers of the oximeters. They make them right here in India, in Maharashtra itself. These are made in India oximeters, and they've come up. They were very, very happy to support this initiative, as well as Turtle Wax also. And Turtle Wax just came down to India recently. They've been here just about a month. I mean, just about a month ago, they made an announcement of opening officially coming down into India and setting up shop over here and providing all those car care products for people who are who definitely keen about keeping their cars in tip-top shape. So thank you to all of these guys for supporting us, Audi, Oxysat, and of course Turtle Wax as well. We're very happy that you've come on board with this initiative, and hopefully we will partner with them in the future as well, and take some of these other initiatives forward also.
Yes, so we'll take a look at the story. In fact, it's on the Overdrive show as well tomorrow on CNBC TV 18. So you can check that out at 1 p.m. or on Sunday, 12:30 and 8 p.m. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the show today.
I'm going to rush because I've got a very exciting car to drive right now, which I don't have a lot of time to drive. I just need to get a quick sample of what it is like. But I'm terribly excited. Rohit Paradkar, you're missing this one today.
I've been missing on a lot of good cars lately because of my schedules, but I shall be back soon.
Coming up in the next week, I mean, you've got a lot of excitement happening for that matter. I think we can definitely tell some people, bits of what we're doing. Can we make those announcements, or shall we just wait on and get them on?
Let's just wait. Yeah, embargo is the keyword of the season, so let's just wait on this and talk about it when it actually happens.
Well, thank you for watching.
We should let everybody know that our show will take place on Thursday next week. We won't be there on Friday. So that should be a clue. If you check out the Overdrive website, you might know what we are talking about. So we'll catch
there's something
you next
happening on the 27th of August, which is why we also have our show coming out on the 27th of August. And it's not the CBR 1000RR like I just mentioned. It's something else. And which is why the show will be on the 27th of August. So definitely tune in next Thursday and not Friday.
All right. See you.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye. Good night.